Please be seated. Proceedings are resumed. Before we took the luncheon break, I took the opportunity during the luncheon period to duly consider all material facts, all rules and regulations, consulted with appropriate legal advice, and I now set out my ruling. Standing Order 28.1 sets out the procedure in which a member can raise a matter which he believes affects the privileges of this House and must do so at the first available sitting. I am satisfied that the Honourable Leader of the Opposition raised the matter at the first available sitting. Standing Order 14 sets out the placement of an issue raised on the business paper, and the Honourable Leader of the Opposition raised the matter in accordance with Standing Order 14. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition raised a matter which he believes affects the privilege of this Honourable Assembly. Further, he also proceeded to state the matter which he proposed to raise. Thirdly, he briefly stated the grounds on which he believes that the matter he raised affects the privileges of this Honourable House. Where then does this matter now lay? By virtue of Standing Order 28.3, the Speaker shall then state whether, in her opinion, the matter may or may not affect the privileges of this Honourable House. In order to exercise the Speaker's statutory discretion, I first turn my attention to the connotation of the word privilege. According to Butterworth's Parliamentary Dictionary, and I quote, "A privilege in the legal sense of the term is an exemption from some duty, burden, or attendance, or liability which others are subject to." In parliamentary terms, the term privilege is also applied to powers other than legislative which are possessed by this Honourable House, example, the duty for the House to regulate itself, and to the exclusive right to grant supplies and originate measures of taxation. The privileges which attach to members of the House and individuals are as follows: freedom of speech, freedom from arrest, an exemption from serving on juries, attending as witnesses, and for clarity and abundance of caution, freedom from arrest does not extend to arrest or imprisonment for indictable offences, criminal contempt of court, or refusal to give surety of the peace. One of the privileges of this House is to regulate its own proceedings, and in addition to our standing orders, Erskine May's Parliamentary Practice, 24th edition, there exist Speaker's rules which are not limited to, but includes the preservation and the dignity and decorum of the Assembly, which is paramount. The purpose of raising privilege in the House is to maintain the respect and credibility due and required of the House in respect of the various privileges, to uphold its powers, and to enforce the enjoyment of privileges of its respective honourable members. A genuine question of privilege is a very serious matter, not to be reckoned with lightly. The decision as to the existence of a prima facie question of privilege belongs exclusively to the Speaker, who may take the matter under advisement, and I so did. It is important for all to understand that the role of the Speaker and what is contained therein, and that the issues placed before me today is not one of finding a fact. It is simply whether on the first impression of the issue raised that is before this House warrants priority consideration over all other matters and all other business of the day that is before this Honourable House. Standing Order 28.4 states in summary that subject to Standing Order 28.3, a motion relating to that matter of privilege shall take precedence over other business. I have had to consider the extent, if any, of the matter complained of and infringe upon any member's ability to perform his or her parliamentary duty and or functions, or appears to be a contempt against the dignity of this Parliament. It is the ruling of the Chair, based on reading page 219 of Erskine May, which states that allegations of misconduct are a matter of conduct and standards and not privileges. Therefore, I rule that there is no prima facie case of privilege has been made to the Chair. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition has articulated quite well that the picture in question could not be an original photograph, as he did not sleep in the Legislative Assembly, and that he did not drink water, as was depicted by the half-full glass on the table, that the collar of his shirt did not fit snugly, as is the case, around his neck, that part of his glasses had been cropped with in the photograph, and that the depiction of his jaw is not like his. Simply put, in his view, it is not an original photograph. The Chair can say that at no time during the proceeding of the House on the material day in question, being the 20th day of May, did the Leader of the Opposition appear to be asleep in his chair in this chamber. However, the Chair would once again remind all members and visitors to this Honourable House that all electronic recording devices, photography, or TV is strictly forbidden without the express permission of the Speaker of the Legislative Assembly, and is contained in the Speaker's rules, which are posted in the lobby out front. I'm entitled to make these rules by virtue of the Legislative Assembly Immunities, Powers, and Privilege Act 1999 revised. Absolutely no exception will be tolerated by this Chair. I have asked the Clerk and the Sergeant of Arms to ensure that adequate security and coverage be put in place to ensure the protection of all of the members in this Honourable House, visitors, staff, and other occupants, and to be on high alert for any breaches of rules and or protocols. This is an Honourable House, and I therefore expect all Honourable members to be guided accordingly. I would further impress on all party leaders to ensure that as far as practical, that their party members understand and respect the rulings of this Honourable House. I would also wish to convey that all members of staff, be it government and or opposition, who enjoy the privilege of attending this Honourable Chamber or within the precincts of the Legislative Assembly, strictly adhere to the rules of this House in order to maintain the dignity and decorum of this Honourable House. If indeed the claims can be proved that the Speaker's rules and other rules of this Honourable House has been breached, the Chair will not hesitate in dealing appropriately with those concerned. The matter, in conclusion, in my view, is one of misconduct and does not prima facie amount to privilege. Herein lies my ruling. And I'll call on Madam Clerk to move on to the next item of business.
Government business, bills, second reading, the appropriation, July 2015 to June 2016, Bill 2015, continuation of debate.
Does any other member wish to speak? I recognize the Honourable Minister responsible for education.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, firstly, I'd like to thank Her Excellency the Governor, the Premier, and the Minister of Finance for delivering the throne speech, the policy statement, and the budget address, respectively. Madam Speaker, each address captures the hard work and the success of the entire government on being able to deliver on and to, in some cases, exceed the targets which we set at the beginning of our term in May 2013. Madam Speaker, the successes of this government to date could not have happened without the individual and the cumulative contributions of each minister and the vital support and contributions of each of the councillors and backbench members of the government working with Cabinet in order to help us to achieve our goals. Madam Speaker, our success to date as a government is due to the fact that we are a coalition government made up of strong, intelligent people, independent members and PPM members alike, Madam Speaker, committed to restoring confidence, stability, and fiscal responsibility. Madam Speaker, in other words, this is a coalition government that works. Each member of the government, the PPM members and the independent members alike, play a vital role in pushing for the issues we individually as well as collectively see as important to the country. The fact that we have a number of independent members of the government, of which I am one, working alongside with PPM member colleagues allows for greater dialogue, greater debate, and a more robust policies and action taken, Madam Speaker. You've heard that from a number of speakers who spoke before me. Because, Madam Speaker, have you ever learned anything from someone that only agrees with you? No, Madam Speaker. There is much debate and much discussion that happens in our government caucus. However, we have demonstrated that in spite of the very vigorous debate that we have on most occasions, we are a coalition government that is not afraid to act. The accomplishments of the past 2 years are a testament to that fact, Madam Speaker. We are a government that has a vision developed through thoughtful and careful analysis, and we are committed to doing what is necessary in order to restore confidence, to restore stability, and to restore fiscal responsibility of government and governance of these islands in order to promote economic growth and to ensure that the Caymanians as a whole benefit. Madam Speaker, in other words, we have a vision and we are prepared to act. Because vision without action is a daydream. And action without vision, Madam Speaker, is a nightmare. But, Madam Speaker, the accomplishments of the government to date could not have happened without the hard work and dedication of the civil servants. And I would like to take this opportunity to thank those hard-working civil servants, especially those in my ministry, departments, and schools that go above and beyond to ensure that the policies of the government are carried out. Madam Speaker, I'd like to briefly give you an overview of my contribution to date, and I would very much appreciate you interjecting as you see fit to let me know the timing as I move along. I'd like to start talking about some of the accomplishments in the work of the relevant departments and the ministry in 2014-15, and then moving to some of the planned work that is to take place in 2015-16 budget year. I'd also then like to turn to some West Bay specific district issues, and also, Madam Speaker, to wind up by speaking about a few of the national issues that are of particular concern to me. Madam Speaker, turning to the subject of education. Simply put, we believe the children are our future. We must teach them well and let them lead the way. Madam Speaker, the overarching goals of this government that guide the policies adopted and the programs developed by the ministry are as follows. 1, to establish the Cayman Islands as a center of educational excellence. And 2, to prepare students to take advantage of the employment and entrepreneurial opportunities to excel in the local economy and to compete in the global economy. Madam Speaker, these 2 fundamental goals for education are adopted from the independent members' National Priorities Plan 2013. Madam Speaker, the work of the education team in the ministry and in the Department of Education Services was driven by the need to address 6 policy priorities established by this government within a few short months of taking office. Namely, and in no particular order, Madam Speaker, priority number 1 was to address concerns related to international competitiveness and raising standards. Priority number 2, Madam Speaker, was to look at the needs to provide for special education needs and persons with disabilities. Priority number 3 was to deal with issues of conflict resolution and crime reduction. Priority 4, Madam Speaker, deals with the focus on technical and vocational education and training, or TVET for short. Priority number 5, Madam Speaker, deals with the focus on information, communication, and technology, ICT, and STEM-related issues. And priority 6, Madam Speaker, is to look at strengthening and promoting public-private partnerships in education and training. Madam Speaker, over the past 2 years, the work of the ministry has been anchored in and geared towards addressing these 6 priority areas for education, and for looking to identify and to address the gaps that exist as it relates to the provision of public education in general. Turning to the issue of international competitiveness and raising standards, Madam Speaker, upon taking office as Minister of Education in 2013, the staff of the ministry was tasked to analyze the best practice in education and work towards ensuring that the Cayman Islands education system is meeting those standards, with the aim of establishing the Cayman Islands as a center of educational excellence. Madam Speaker, that was really one of the impetus, or the main impetus, for why this government commissioned the first ever baseline schools inspections of all government schools, including the Cayman Islands Further Education Center and the Lighthouse School, and an educational governance review to take place over the 2014-2015 academic year. The objectives of that, really, Madam Speaker, were twofold. One was to provide myself as minister and the government as a whole an independent view and assessment of the education system and each of the respective schools. Also, it was an attempt to restore confidence in the education system, Madam Speaker, in order to validate the good practice carried out where that is found, but also to highlight areas of weaknesses and where significant improvement may need to take place in order for us to reach the goal of providing a world-class education system. Madam Speaker, the inspectors were given the task to take an objective view of what exists, to present their findings, and to make evidence-based recommendations to address whatever the issues that they found, be it good or bad. And I understand, Madam Speaker, that the reports are well on their way and should be completed and delivered to the ministry by the end of this financial year. However, Madam Speaker, the ministry and the government didn't sit on its laurels to wait on the findings of these reports before taking action. Concurrent with the ongoing baseline inspections, the ministry has carried out a tremendous amount of work to address a number of pressing issues. Some of those you have already been informed of through my various contributions in this honorable House. But Madam Speaker, I'm happy to report that there have been a number of new initiatives undertaken in the 2014-2015 academic year, which addresses the needs to raise standards in the local education system and thereby increasing our international competitiveness. Many of these new initiatives launched, Madam Speaker, addresses more than one priority area that I outlined, because it was important for the government to find synergies between the various policies and activities undertaken. And that is certainly the philosophy and the work undertaken by the Ministry of Education, Employment and Gender Affairs, Madam Speaker. So taking each phase of education in turn, I will discuss some of the new synergistic initiatives carried out this year. Madam Speaker, you would have heard this morning in my statement regarding early childhood care and education services. There were a number of new initiatives and accomplishments of that unit, and I won't take time here now to reiterate those. I'll move, Madam Speaker, to the issue or the initiatives as it relates to the primary and secondary school initiatives. Madam Speaker, in 2014, the formal high school graduation criteria was adopted for all public high schools. The criteria to be met in order to graduate now includes academic achievement along with attendance and behavior targets. Madam Speaker, during the 2014-2015 academic year, a formal professional development policy was also adopted. The quality of teaching, Madam Speaker, is the most critical factor impacting student performance. Research bear this out time and time again. And so the professional development policy was formally adopted, making it a requirement for professional development activities to take place and that teachers to actually do and engage in professional development activities on an ongoing basis. Because the policy aims to support the development of a skilled workforce within the education service, it's there to define the expectations and provisions for continued professional development within the education service for principals, teachers, and classroom support staff alike. It's there to increase teachers' participation in continuing professional learning and development, to improve teachers' access to high-quality continuing professional development programs, and to provide appropriate recognition to principals, teachers, and classroom support staff undertaking and then continuing professional learning and developmental activities. And also, Madam Speaker, to encourage teachers to take responsibility for their own learning and for their own professional development, and to support a culture of continuous learning and development. We cannot, Madam Speaker, expect our students to strive to be lifelong learners if our teachers are not. And so, Madam Speaker, that was really the impetus for why it was necessary as a country to actually formally adopt a professional development policy geared at ensuring that our teachers are as prepared as they should be and need to be in order to deal with the challenges, the issues, and also the exciting opportunities that teaching poses today. Madam Speaker, not only was the new policy adopted in this past academic year, the professional development programs have actually been developed and rolled out. And in particular, there was a program geared at school leadership that was rolled out in the 2014-15 academic year. Madam Speaker, raising standards in the leadership and management at the schools, at the school level, is absolutely critical for raising standards across the board. And so therefore, Madam Speaker, it was important for us to develop a program specifically geared to helping the management of each school to be able to better manage and to better enable effective practices in the school. And therefore, the International Leadership Certificate was developed and offered in conjunction with the Ontario Principals Council. Madam Speaker, this, as I said, was rolled out in this academic year, and all of our principals and deputy principals, I'm happy to report, is already well on their way to getting certification under this program. But Madam Speaker, it's also important to note that this program was actually developed using local context and experience. So the Cayman Islands owns the intellectual property, Madam Speaker. Thus, the program can be rolled out on a continuous basis as and when new or emerging school leadership arises. This is an important thing to highlight, Madam Speaker, because what it does is it ensures that there is now proper succession planning tools in place in the education system to ensure that young, vibrant, and hungry educators that want to move up the ranks are actually given the appropriate tools in order to help them be better in new roles that they may aspire to, which would include taking on more senior management positions in the schools themselves. Madam Speaker, there was also targeted professional development offered to support the development of newly qualified Caymanian teachers as well. The continuation of newly qualified teachers program happened this year again, whereby the newly qualified teachers program provides support for new Caymanian teachers in the first 2 years of their teaching. During this past fiscal year, 10 newly qualified teachers benefited from the support that was given through this program, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, as I mentioned in, again, my statement with respect to ICT and STEM, much work is being done and has been done in this past academic year to strengthen math instruction and learning outcomes. There was a program introduced called Mathematics Units, and these units incorporate best practices in mathematics and provide structure for guidance for teacher planning. Year 5 and 6 units are being developed and trialed in 2014 and 15, Madam Speaker, for implementation in the 2015-16 academic year. Similarly, there was an introduction of mathematics in context, and that is a scheme that was developed to increase children's understanding of informal mathematics and help to link this to the learning of more formal mathematics. Madam Speaker, training started in May of 2014 with implementation for Year 7 in September of 2014, so it took place this year, and the evaluation of the program will take place in June and July of 2015. So again, these are a few additional programs that the Ministry of Education is using to focus on strengthening STEM teaching and provisions in our schools. Madam Speaker, similar to strengthening mathematics, there is a number of programs geared at strengthening literacy, instruction, and learning outcomes as well. Madam Speaker, this academic year saw the introduction of standards-based writing guidance for Key Stage 1. That is, Madam Speaker, years 1 to 3. And this effective writing instruction is a professional learning tool that was developed and launched this academic year to support teachers' planning and practice in Key Stage 1, a critical stage of literacy development, Madam Speaker. The guide aims to provide practical approaches and resources that supplement the learning objectives and pedagogy rooted in the 2008 Cayman Islands National Curriculum. And Madam Speaker, the Key Stage 2, which deals with years 3 to 6, guidance is being developed as we speak and will be completed by the end of this academic year or financial year 2014-15 to be rolled out in the coming academic year in 2015-16. Similar to the writing guidance, Madam Speaker, there was a development of effective reading instruction, a reading guidance tool geared towards Key Stage 1. Again, this is a professional development tool aimed at providing support to teachers with respect to teaching instruction as it relates to reading. The guide provides practical approaches and resources, and again is rooted in the 2008 National Curriculum. And the guidance, Madam Speaker, is expected to be rolled out and launched in September of this year. Madam Speaker, in an effort to highlight and to focus on the fact that literacy is such an important tool, it is such an important foundation for our students in helping to determine their future success, there has been the development of a strategic plan specifically geared to literacy. And this plan has been developed based on the 13 parameters, a literacy leadership toolkit, which is a proven, comprehensive, and easy-to-use toolkit for staff development and literacy improvement. Madam Speaker, the strategic plan for literacy will be completed prior to the end of the 2014-2015 fiscal year. And Madam Speaker, and finally, with respect to the primary and secondary efforts at raising standards, there was a review of SIFEC that was completed. It was an internal review in June 2014 and focused on current provision at SIFEC in the context of student needs and interests, societal needs and capacity, and market competitors. And Madam Speaker, I'm happy to report that implementation of the recommendations from this review is currently underway by the Ministry and Department of Education Services, and of course, SIFEC as well. Madam Speaker, turning to post-secondary education and the efforts to raise standards, I'd like to turn to some of the initiatives and accomplishments by the University College of the Cayman Islands, which is the national tertiary institution for the Cayman Islands. But before I do that, Madam Speaker, I'd like to publicly give my condolences to the UCCI community, to the Board of Governors, to the faculty, to the staff, to students, to the President alike, on behalf of this government regarding the sudden passing of Dean Perry George, who, Madam Speaker, we know was a beloved member of the UCCI faculty and whom I'm sure will be sorely missed by his former colleagues and students alike. And I also note that there is a memorial service taking place as we speak, Madam Speaker, so unfortunately I'm not able to be there in person to give my condolences in that regard. But Madam Speaker, the government continues to support UCCI. In fact, the government has increased the financial support to UCCI since taking office in May 2013. The government is committed to working with UCCI to help it to reach its strategic goals in carrying out the national vision for tertiary education set by the government through the Ministry of Education. Madam Speaker, in keeping with the national vision for tertiary education developed shortly after taking office and shared with the UCCI Board of Governors in the latter part of 2013, the University College of the Cayman Islands has initiated efforts to seek accreditation for both the university as an institution and the programs offered by UCCI. And to this end, Madam Speaker, I have been informed that UCCI has just received its institutional accreditation through the Accreditation Service for International Schools, Colleges, and Universities, ASIC. And therefore, Madam Speaker, I'd like to congratulate the Board of Governors, the President, the faculty and staff in achieving this important first step in raising standards and seeking to increase international competitiveness. And Madam Speaker, I look forward to hearing more about the efforts and the success of UCCI in working to achieve accreditation of its programs of study as the next phase in its accreditation journey. Madam Speaker, again, in keeping with the national vision for tertiary education set by the government, the UCCI is currently reviewing the outcome of a piloted pre-college program with a view of launching a formal pre-college program in the fall of 2015. Madam Speaker, the program is being designed to facilitate a pathway to education for persons who do not currently meet admission standards of UCCI or who require additional support in obtaining foundational skills necessary to matriculate into higher and lifelong education. Madam Speaker, this is an important program which the government believes is absolutely necessary, because if we are talking about increasing our people's access to education, we must make sure that we have these bridge foundation programs available who may not have actually achieved the requisite skills or the requisite educational attainment prior to leaving secondary school. We can't continue to make sure that, we can't continue to keep that door closed for persons that want to go on for higher education, and this foundation program is an important step in order to ensure that that happens. So that is really a goal of the government, to see that UCCI continues to move towards implementing that, and we will support the UCCI's efforts in that regard and look forward to the launch of the program in fall 2015. Madam Speaker, regarding the priority of special education needs and disabilities, as I mentioned before, this government, and in particular, Madam Speaker, as Minister of Education, we place high priority on the needs of our children with special education needs and disabilities. There are a number of key initiatives undertaken by the ministry during the last academic year that I would like to highlight a few of those noteworthy education initiatives. Madam Speaker, there was a national education conference held for the first time in 3 years in February of 2015. The keynote speaker during that time was a world-renowned educator, Dr. Avis Glaze. Educators took part in professional development workshops led by local experts to improve their skills and to become better equipped to develop inclusive learning environments and experiences for all of our students. Madam Speaker, I spoke earlier about the iPad initiative at Lighthouse School, the first of its kind in this country, so I won't go into detail on that right now. Similarly, I spoke about the early intervention program, the holistic approach that this government intends to take, and therefore I won't speak to length, but these are two obviously programs geared towards dealing with our special education needs students. Madam Speaker, the revision of the special education needs codes of practice was something that was long overdue. The original code of practice was approved by the Education Council several years ago, Madam Speaker, and so this year there was a review of the code of practice which helps to outline the regulations for public schools in the Cayman Islands in relation to the provision for special education needs. It also provides a basis for identifying special educational needs and for determining the expectations for schools in making appropriate accommodations for such students, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the revised Code of Practice is due to be completed by the end of this academic year as well. And Madam Speaker, it's important to note that the new education law, of which Councillor Connolly spoke to briefly in his contributions, will also make specific legislative provisions for students with special education needs, recognizing the uniqueness and the provisions needed to address the needs of this student population. To that end, there has been a special education needs and disabilities strategy group, which has been formed within the ministry and various departments that fall under the ministry, again, in a proactive approach by the ministry to looking to the implementation of the Cayman Islands Disabilities Policy, which was adopted by the government and by Cabinet this year. Madam Speaker, this is another area where there will need to be not just inter and intra-ministerial work, but cross-ministerial collaboration in order to achieve the goals, as the needs of persons with disabilities range from needing health care, to housing, to employment, to financial support, etc. And so this is an area where this government will need to continue to ensure that we work as one. And I have to say, Madam Speaker, thus far, the government understands the need to bring that type of a holistic approach to addressing the issues facing our people. Madam Speaker, priority number 3 was putting programs in place to try to address conflict resolution training and crime prevention or reduction. Madam Speaker, I believe that a national goal for the country in this regard should be to develop and implement a comprehensive crime reduction policy which addresses criminality at every stage of the process and focuses on strategies of crime prevention, restorative justice, offender rehabilitation, and community reintegration. And I will speak more to that when we talk about national issues, but specifically as it relates to what the Ministry of Education is doing in order to try to address the current concerns related to crime prevention and reduction. There has been a development of what is known as the Cayman Islands Safe Management and Risk Reduction Training, or CSMART for short, Madam Speaker. And this is a guidance which has been developed dealing with the use of physical intervention in schools. The ministry established a working group to develop a set of techniques in line with the local needs and international best practice. There was a training package developed, Madam Speaker, and a number of components include understanding the cycle of behavior, de-escalation skills, risk assessment procedures, and the like. And so, Madam Speaker, training was piloted during the 2014-2015 fiscal year and is due to be fully implemented in the 2015-2016 year. And again, Madam Speaker, it's important to note that provision related to safe handling of children will be reflected in the education bill that will be out for discussion early next month. Madam Speaker, another innovative and synergistic program that was launched, that was developed by this government, was that of the Pastoral Support Program, Madam Speaker. It is both an education and an employment initiative, which was developed very shortly after taking office in the summer of 2013. The program was designed to address both the educational needs as well as the employment needs of our people. And initially the program was piloted in the latter part of the 2013-14 academic year. And in response to the success of the pilot, the program was extended and was rolled out again during this academic year, 2014 and 2015. And what it does, Madam Speaker, it provides personnel on school sites, additional personnel on school sites who could interface with the students positively to help reduce and to de-escalate events that may happen before it occurs. Pastoral support workers help as guides to students in need of additional support during the school day, with the aim of ensuring that they engage with learning and access educational opportunities. They are particularly visible during their arrival, lunch, and at the end of the day, Madam Speaker, to help manage, so to speak, the traffic that happens during that time. Madam Speaker, this is an employment initiative because it enables suitably qualified Caymanians to gain work. Madam Speaker, a policy decision taken with respect to this particular program was that only Caymanians who were registered with the National Workforce Development Agency were eligible to apply. And the successful candidates that were identified underwent training relevant to their role as pastoral support workers. So it also provided skills training and retooling, which was an opportunity for those unemployed Caymanians to gain employment, but to also gain additional skills as well. Madam Speaker, there was a review and restructuring of the existing primary and secondary school inclusion specialist teachers. Again, in the latter part, or in the early part, I would say, of the 2014-15 academic year, after taking office, the ministry called for an internal review of the governance of management of behavior in the schools. And as a result of that, there was a reorganization of the primary and secondary school inclusion specialists that was needed. And these specialists, Madam Speaker, are expected to facilitate and deliver appropriate interventions for students with identified learning, social, emotional, and behavior issues.
Minister, you have 1 hour and 28 minutes remaining.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Such interventions are supposed to support individual teachers and also support schools in ensuring that the teaching and learning opportunities offered within the mainstream education system provides all of our students with the opportunity to reach their maximum potential. Madam Speaker, the ministry also supports the extended after-school program, which was initially established in response to the concerns that many potentially vulnerable children were left unsupervised after school. The program provides a range of activities from homework assistance to drama for over 1,000 children in the public school system between 3 to 5:30 in the afternoon. And Madam Speaker, in an effort to, again, address an obvious area of, I wouldn't go as far as saying concern, but an area of concern with respect to wanting to improve on what was there, was in the 2014-15 academic year, a quality assurance aspect was built in to the program. Given the number of students serviced, given the amount of money that the government supports, we want to make sure that the actual services provided in the after-school program were addressing the needs that we were expecting them to address. And so a quality assurance aspect was developed in partnership with the YMCA. And as you know, Madam Speaker, the YMCA has a breadth and depth of experience with respect to running programs geared towards young people. So that did add a level of oversight which was needed at this stage given the popularity of the program. Madam Speaker, moving to priority 4, with respect to TVET, the expansion of course offerings at SciFEC to include construction as well as sports and leisure was introduced during the 2014-15 academic year. There was also a new accounts course accredited at the level 2 level through the ACCA. Madam Speaker, this government is not only committed to talking about TVET, this government is committed to doing something about actually achieving it in our schools and post-secondary as well. And so therefore, Madam Speaker, the ministry was tasked to develop a draft TVET strategy and action plan as to how we're going to address the issues as it relates to technical and vocational education opportunities from within our public schools and extending beyond the compulsory age as well. And so the ministry is in the process of recruiting a technical and vocational education and training coordinator, a post that was budgeted for, again, by this government, showing the determination to actually have a proper, robust TVET program in our society. Similarly, the government has called for, and the ministry will be establishing a national training council in the 2015-2016 fiscal year, Madam Speaker, to really act as that necessary link with the industry in this regard to make sure that the programs that are developed can actually be carried out with respect to developing internships and apprenticeships, and I'll talk a bit more about that later on. Madam Speaker, Priority 5 deals with ICT, and as I said, I dealt with that already. Priority 6 deals with the issue of public-private partnerships in education and training. And Madam Speaker, this was a key campaign platform of a number of us in the government, myself including. And it is also a key strategy for success to achieve the goal of preparing students to take advantage of the employment and entrepreneurial opportunities in order for them to excel in the local economy and to compete in the global economy. In order to do that, Madam Speaker, we need to develop stronger partnerships with private sector to provide the additional resources as necessary to assist in the delivery of the curriculum and otherwise where such gaps exist. Madam Speaker, you would have heard both the Premier and my colleague Minister of Financial Services speak about the recently launched public-private partnership with Cayman Finance. This was a partnership between the government, specifically the Ministry of Education and the Ministry of Financial Services and Cayman Finance, which was aimed at teaching our students about the financial services industry. It introduces, Madam Speaker, students to career opportunities in the financial services industry that they may not even be aware of. It also creates an invaluable networking opportunity and opportunities for our public school students. Madam Speaker, it promotes sustainable development of the financial services industry, ensuring that competent local talent is identified early, is developed, and is available. And Madam Speaker, 50 Year 12 students in the government dual enrollment program, that is 50 Year 12 students doing A-levels or UCCI as a part of their Year 12 curriculum, are participating in this program. And in fact, Madam Speaker, I have been informed that it's actually 51 students who are participating in the full program, that is, who will be participating in the 12-week-long workshops and one-to-one mentorships and culminating with a 1-month paid summer internship. But, Madam Speaker, the success of the pilot was such that over 60 students put their names forward and applied. And what Cayman Finance has done is that they've ensured that every child that has put themselves forward to be a part of the program can actually benefit from the workshops that they're offering. So every child is able to participate in the program to some degree, but it is the 51 students that will be doing the full program. And just to address a concern that was raised by the member from East End regarding the program, I want to say to that member and to everybody in this House and to the other naysayers that may be saying, well, it's only 50 students. The fact is, Madam Speaker, it is 51 students who are graduating from high school who now have guaranteed summer jobs, who did not have that opportunity prior to the launch of this program. So, Madam Speaker, I want to thank the Minister of Financial Services for his support, and also to thank the CEO of Cayman Finance, Mr. Jude Scott, for galvanizing the financial services industry to participate in this invaluable program. Madam Speaker, there are a number of other public-private partnerships that the Ministry of Education has, and I'd just like to speak to them very briefly as I had discussed these in detail already. These include partnerships with Life Limited, dealing with a number of literacy intervention programs in partnership and in collaboration with the government. And I want to say that the ministry is working very closely with Life to see how greater partnerships in education can be forged in the coming years. And again, I want to thank publicly the members of Life, and I look forward to the continued working relationship in this regard. Madam Speaker, the ministry also has a good working relationship with the Cayman Islands Society of Professional Accountants, and there is a partnership that is in place whereby the CISPA supports a number of numeracy interventions and numeracy skill development programs that are targeting students in need.
Honorable Minister for Education, we have reached the hour of interruption. I recognize the Honorable Deputy Premier.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I move the suspension of Standing Order 10-2 in order that this honorable House may work past the hour of interruption.
The question is that Standing Order 10-2 be suspended to allow the House to work beyond the hour of interruption with an anticipated end of 6 p.m. thereabouts. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. The ayes have it. Standing Order 10-2 is hereby suspended. Please continue, Honorable Minister for Education.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And finally, Madam Speaker, there is a very important partnership that the Ministry has with an organization known as Hedge Funds Care. And that is an organization that funds, in particular, initiatives dealing with child abuse prevention and programs geared to eradicating child abuse in our community, Madam Speaker. And with your permission, I would prefer to speak to that at a later point. Madam Speaker, there are a number of important education initiatives for the 2015-2016 year, and I'll touch on these very briefly. Firstly, the revised education law. Madam Speaker, any foundation for educational excellence must have a solid legislative underpinning to support such a system. And Madam Speaker, I'm happy to say that public consultation on the draft education bill will begin this June. Madam Speaker, as the 5th elected member from Georgetown and councillor for the Ministry of Education discussed in his contributions the key aspects of the proposed new law, I will not expound further on that law, but I want to take this opportunity to say a big thank you to Councillor Connolly in supporting me as Minister and the Ministry, especially as it relates to education, but certainly not limited to education, Madam Speaker. He has worked tirelessly to help move employment and gender initiatives of the government along as well. Councillor Connolly has been a tremendous asset to me as Minister, Madam Speaker, and to this government as a whole. And I am extremely grateful to have benefited from having worked with him alongside me in the ministry over the last 2 years. Madam Speaker, I also want to quickly address a concern that was raised by my colleague, the 1st elected member from Bordentown, regarding religious education in schools. Madam Speaker, our Constitution recognizes our Christian heritage. Therefore, our public school system must recognize our Christian heritage. Religious education is a required subject in the national curriculum in public schools, Madam Speaker. And as long as I am in this position as Minister of Education, I give that commitment that that will continue to be the case. Madam Speaker, in keeping with the independent member's national priorities plan and the concerns of this government as a whole, there will be an establishment of an Office of Education Quality Assurance. The office will be established in order to carry out on an ongoing basis rigorous, objective, and independent inspections of government schools, private schools, and early childhood care and education centers. Madam Speaker, the office will also be responsible for reporting on the quality and effectiveness of provision and practice in schools and early childhood care and education centers, and will provide information and advice to myself as Minister of Education on matters related to policy and support required in order to raise standards of achievement. And again, Madam Speaker, it is important to note that the office will be supported by and enshrined in the proposed education law. Madam Speaker, work on the new John Gray High School project has recommenced in 2014-15 and will utilize a phased approach to complete the project. The Ministry has established a steering committee and is utilizing the services of the Public Works Department Project Management Office to carry out the preliminary documentation processes required under the FFR and Phase 2 of the project, i.e. the multipurpose hall. Phase 2 is expected to be completed in 2016. And Madam Speaker, I think it's important at this stage to state emphatically to this House and to those listening that proper procurement and other required processes will be expected to be followed pursuant to the PMFL and the FFR as it relates to the continuation of this project. Madam Speaker, there's been a lot of talk about what has happened in the past regarding schools projects, both about practices adopted under the previous UDP administration and prior to that. But, Madam Speaker, as the new Minister of Education, I'm here to tell you and members in this honourable House that there will be no political interference from me as Minister in relation to the required procurement processes to be carried out. As Minister, Madam Speaker, I will push to see that the project proceeds as quickly as possible. However, Madam Speaker, I will not do so at the expense of proper procedure, proper protocols, or proper procurement practices to be carried out by the established steering committee as overseen by the Project Management Office. That is their job, Madam Speaker, and as Minister, I expect them to do their job to the highest professional standards. Madam Speaker, as I spoke to briefly in my response to a few questions, the Ministry will be working jointly with the Ministry of District Administration, Tourism and Transport to develop and carry out a plan for developing an appropriate school on the bluff in Cayman Brac to better utilize existing facilities and to enhance the school facilities in the Sister Islands. Madam Speaker, in 2015-16, a guidance document will be developed that supports the implementation of the phases of the Special Education Needs Codes of Practice, the Code of Practice, which is currently being revised. And Madam Speaker, with respect to the graduation requirement that was adopted in 2014, work will continue to consider including aspects of mandatory community service as a part of the graduation criteria. Madam Speaker, it is important to say that the content and the accreditation of this particular aspect of the program, the community service aspect, has yet to be established. But the hope and the expectation is for the team in the Ministry and the Department of Education Services to think about how we can help to create socially conscious and concerned citizens. How can we help to enhance the values-based education and curriculum and to help to involve a spirit of volunteerism amongst our students? So in summary, Madam Speaker, the goal for education is to establish Cayman Islands as a center of educational excellence and to prepare our students to take advantage of employment and entrepreneurial opportunities to excel in the local economy and compete in the global economy. That is what has been, and that is what will continue to be the philosophy that guides the work of the Ministry of Education, the Department of Education, and the schools. Madam Speaker, turning to employment, as was reflected in the contributions of all ministers thus far, including the Premier, the Minister of Home Affairs, the Minister of Finance, the Minister of Tourism, the Minister of Community Affairs, and the Minister of Financial Services. And Madam Speaker, I dare say the Minister of Planning, who will come after me. All ministers have noted that the issue of employment cuts across every ministry and the government as a whole. Each ministry has an obligation and a role to play to address the issues related to employment, and each ministry is working, Madam Speaker, towards carrying out its respective obligations to address the issue of unemployment in the country. Madam Speaker, the National Workforce Development Agency is one of several government departments dedicated to helping the people of the Cayman Islands. And in this instance, their mandate is to be a valued partner and facilitator in the training, development, and employment of Caymanians. Therefore, Madam Speaker, the primary remit, the primary mandate of the National Workforce Development Agency is workforce development. It is not a job placement or recruitment agency. Madam Speaker, as a result of the confusion that still exists, it is worth repeating that last statement. The NWDA is not a job placement or recruitment agency. It is a valuable resource in which Caymanians can utilize to assist in the training and development and accessing employment initiatives, such as the National Job Link Program, the National Training Program, the National Internship Program, and the National Apprenticeship Program, all organized and run out of the NWDA. Madam Speaker, the NWDA is comprised of 4 units: the Employment Services Unit, the Training and Development Unit, the Scholarship Secretariat, and the Labor Market Information Systems. And Madam Speaker, as it relates to some key accomplishments of the NWDA for the 2014-2015 fiscal year, it's important to note that a major component to promoting economic growth that benefits the people of these islands, our Caymanian people, is focusing on the development of the people themselves. And so, Madam Speaker, I would like to begin by stating a quote: "The man or woman who removes a mountain begins by carrying away stones." Madam Speaker, with respect to the systems utilized by the NWDA, the department has come a long way in the past 2 years. They have moved from a completely manual, highly inefficient processing system to an automated system of registering both job seekers and employment opportunities, the National Job Link portal, which was launched in June of 2014. Madam Speaker, in an effort to better serve the needs of the diverse job-seeking pool, in 2014-15 financial year, the NWDA implemented a new registration system which defined categories of service for each and restricted access to some, depending on this person's immigration status. It should be noted, however, Madam Speaker, that Caymanians have the right to register as whichever category is deemed most appropriate given their circumstances, and the Caymanians have the right to get access to as much or as little assistance or support from the NWDA as they feel that they need. Also, Madam Speaker, for the first time ever, there is an automatic, streamlined, online link connecting the 2 key employment departments, the Immigration Department and the NWDA, in order to create real-time access to the Immigration Department and its boards in relation to what job seekers are registered and available to work. And it provides an efficient way, Madam Speaker, for employers to communicate efforts taken to hire a Caymanian prior to the Immigration Department or boards making decisions relating to work permit applications. This system, Madam Speaker, was launched initially during our first year in office in February 2014. Madam Speaker, the NWDA Immigration Database Interface, if utilized as it is designed to be by job seekers and employers, provides information needed to ensure that the Immigration Department and its boards, assuming that the Immigration Department and the boards are using the portal as a reference, it is designed to make them be aware of every registered job seeker that is interested and available for jobs as advertised through the NWDA and what the outcome of that recruitment process was. Madam Speaker, work continued during the 14-15 financial year to assess and further refine the current system to increase the level of automation, to create opportunities for greater efficiencies, and to improve customer service delivery for internal as well as external stakeholders, including job seekers, employers, the Immigration Department, and other government departments. Madam Speaker, all of this was done with the intention of creating a clearinghouse for jobs listings in the country. Madam Speaker, this was a key campaign priority and commitment of mine, and as I said, many others on the government bench. And I am grateful that this has now become an e-government priority initiative, and work is underway to procure technical assistance required to create the appropriate system. Madam Speaker, this work is expected to continue into the 15-16 financial year, leading the way for the creation, as I said, of such a national clearinghouse of all employment opportunities at any given time in the country. People can't apply for jobs if they don't know the jobs exist. And Madam Speaker, the purpose of this clearinghouse would be to give job seekers access to which jobs are in the market at any given time. Madam Speaker, I have outlined the extensive work, the diligence that the NWDA has done to get us to this point. It is now time that all of the relevant departments, and in particular the Immigration Department, boards, and Ministry of Home Affairs, continue to work towards enhancing this system that is already in the works, to make it into the clearinghouse, to make it into the transparent work permit process, application process that we know we need as a country. And it is now a priority of the e-government initiative, Madam Speaker, and I'm looking forward to their continued vigilance and diligence in ensuring that the goals are achieved. Madam Speaker, the NWDA has also launched and coordinates a national internship program. This was launched last summer, Madam Speaker, where we had financial services industry company who actually took on an intern from UCCI, one of our local accounting students. Madam Speaker, there was also an internship program through UCCI that was working with our own ministry's ICT team, and I'm happy to report that the team in the end hired one of the interns to work for the ministry. Madam Speaker, the Scholarship Secretariat in the ministry, in the NWDA, is also working very closely with the portfolio of civil service in relation to facilitating the 2015 summer work placements for government scholarship recipients. Madam Speaker, the ministry is also working with Health City Cayman Islands to facilitate the 24 internship placements of college students through Health City's summer internship program, as mentioned previously by the Premier in his policy statement. The ministry, through the auspices of the Ministry of Education, is also working with HCCI to grow its internship for high school students. This was an initiative that was launched last year, Madam Speaker, and to date, 175 students have participated in the program, and the Ministry and the Department of Education Services worked very closely with HCCI to ensure that the program actually became a success and got off the ground. And I'm happy to say that HCCI has committed to significantly increasing the numbers of students for the 2015-16 academic year, and the Ministry of Education as well as the government will continue to support this internship program for our students. Madam Speaker, moving to the National Apprenticeship Program, which is coordinated through the auspices of the NWDA. The government, and in particular the Ministry of Education, Employment and Gender Affairs, continues to support the Superior Auto Training Program, which is funded by the government and delivered by Superior Auto Limited. This program is geared at Caymanians between the ages of 18 to 25, and it is delivered over a period of 14 months, and it is accredited through the Jamaican German Auto School, JAGAS Heart Trust NTA. Madam Speaker, the program provides opportunities for participants to qualify as advanced apprentices at level 2 or mechanics helpers at level 1 at the NCT VET, and includes a 1-year internship with industry following the course completion. Madam Speaker, I'm happy to say that this cohort that started in January of this year is the largest cohort to date to continue to have the number of students. Every student that started, barring one, Madam Speaker, who ended his time with the program under tragic circumstances, is still with the program. We have 10 students who are still participating. And Madam Speaker, I just at this stage want to also acknowledge the heartbreak that members of the program, but also members of the family of Mr. David E. Banks, who was not able to continue with the program, as I said, due to tragic circumstances. And I want to give condolences to the family of David E. Banks, to his loved ones, his friends, and to his fellow students at the Superior Auto Training Program. David was full of promise, Madam Speaker. He was full of hope, and he had made a conscious decision to turn his life around. And I'm sure that his presence is missed, but will serve as a source of inspiration for his fellow students and for other apprentices as well. Madam Speaker, the ministry and the NWDA is continuing to work towards developing new TVET apprenticeship opportunities in the trades industries as we speak. And Madam Speaker, I will be speaking more to that and giving an update as and when I'm able to do so when we are going to roll out the programs. But the country, based on the track record thus far, the country should feel some level of comfort that if I'm telling you things are in the works, things are in the works, and things will be forthcoming in a very timely fashion. Madam Speaker, the Training and Development and Employment Services units of the NWDA continues to support the Passport to Success program, which has prepared over 355 young Caymanians to enter the workforce. Madam Speaker, we just saw the recent graduation of Cohort 16, which was a cohort geared towards single mothers. And to date, Madam Speaker, the single mother cohorts tend to be one of the most successful cohorts, meaning after 12 months post-graduation, the percentage of those participants that are in full-time employment range between 64 to 68%. And as a result, already those who have graduated from this cohort 16, 5 of the recent graduates have already found employment, and a number are pursuing further education and study. Madam Speaker, the Employment Support Services Unit of the NWDA and the Training Unit and Development Unit, they offer services not just locally in central Georgetown, but they actually go out to the districts on a monthly basis during the community outreach to West Bay, Bordentown, East End, Northside, and the Sister Islands. Again, Madam Speaker, this was a program that started as a result of a policy adopted by this government administration in 2014, which looked to respond to the needs of the community in the community. Madam Speaker, the Training and Development arm and the Employment Services arm of the NWDA also works with inmates of the Her Majesty's Prison Services on the Release on Temporary License program, and they're being actively assisted as they transition into the community by members of the NWDA.
Honorable Minister, you have 1 hour remaining, and I propose to take a 10-minute break at this time.
Absolutely, Madam Speaker.